Hi, George Freestone, and we're back with episode 22, maybe just a little bit past halfway, in telling the story of my wife Carol and my visit to all 30 Major League ballparks and the fun cities that they're located in. Today, we're at Kansas City to see the White Sox, my polo, take on the Royals. And yes, I have some Royals gear, but I figured this might be my only opportunity to put on my Negro League's Kansas City Monarchs ball cap. So I chose to put on my Chicago polo so that I could share that particular cap with you today. With that, let's get into the slide. Let's make it large and let's move me. Okay, let's start by talking to you a little bit about the trip that we made. As the first bullet indicates over here, we did a bit of driving. We left our home in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, and drove just about due west. We stopped first in Indianapolis. There we had a very nice meal and catch up with my daughter and her husband. And you can see us right over here on the left at a wonderful restaurant in Indianapolis. So we stopped there kind of midway in our journey to Kansas City. We then, the following day, drove the rest of the way all the way out to Kansas City. Now, this trip also took us back through Missouri to St. Louis. In episode 23, we'll talk a little bit about the Cardinals game that we saw there in one of my church buddies' cities of choice that he refers to as Mecca. But we visited St. Louis on the way home, and then because Carol and I enjoy the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we had to make the slight diversion that you see up here, stop off in Cleveland on the way home for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, after we arrived in Kansas City, we visited the ballpark, which is called the K. And the reason it's called the K is because of these folks right here, Ewing and Muriel Kaufman, who played a significant role in getting that ballpark built. But Carol and I got to the K so early that there was no one there to take our parking fee from us. So they waved us on and said parking is free. I said, this is great. So anyway, we're off to a good start. We also walked around the park, and the background in Zoom that we'll return to is this picture as well. That's just a view of the K from our walking around the park. We also stopped and got what I refer to as a rookie card right here for visiting the K. Both Carol and I have a certificate, and all of these photos, those certificates as well, are available at this particular link of photos that you see a little bit later in the bulleted information on the slide. So anyway, we got off to a great start. We got free parking. Now the weather for the game, it says at this link, which is to the box score of the game, the box score said that it was 61 degrees at the start of the game, and this was an evening game. So we got there early in the late afternoon. But 61 degrees doesn't sound that chilly, but it was windy. And you can see with the other fans that were in the ballpark, they're wearing coats to protect them from the elements. Well, Carol actually bought a blanket for this game because it was so chilly. So we got ourselves all set up and we got relatively good seats. You can see here uh, the picture that I'm taking. So we were at ground level. And again, you can see the difficulty from a photography perspective that these protective nets that I've mentioned to you previously about in earlier episodes, just presenting more of a challenge for actually focusing on the action. So in the stands, you can see several fans, and I've indicated here both an avid and perhaps friendly fan. Well, I know I wasn't wearing Kansas City garb. I tend to wear my Brooklyn Dodgers jersey, but I may have had a cap that caused this guy some consternation. So he turned around. He may have heard us talking as well. But at any rate, we enjoyed ourselves. We had a great time, and this guy was just having some fun. Now, in terms of the game, actually, the underdog Royals, you can see their record here. They were 8-16 coming into the game versus the favored White Sox, which were above 500, 13-11 coming into the game. But the underdog Royals won big. The losing pitcher was this guy right here, and Lorenzo Cain for the Royals was 0 for 2. His best was 2 walks, but contributed to the 6-1 victory for the Royals. Hosmer had a home run for the Royals in that game. And if you want to see any more of the specifics from that game, please click on that link for the box score. Okay, we did, as we walked around the park, we saw a couple of bricks. There's actually about 20 photographed bricks of memorable moments for the Royals. And this was bricks outside the park. This one commemorates George Brett's 390 batting average, quite a significant accomplishment in 1980. I couldn't let this one go by. We visited in May of 2017. This brick celebrates the Royals' victory over my beloved Mets in the World Series of 2015 and a specific incident there that led to the Royals winning the World Series. But so be it for the Mets that particular year. They had to settle for being National League champs. So many bricks, and you'll see all of them if you just click on this particular link right there. Now, my cap, Kansas City Monarchs. I wanted to say a couple of words about the Monarchs. There is a team called the Monarchs in Kansas City right now, but it is not the Negro League team that was in existence for the longest tenure of any Negro League team from 1920 through 1965. And they moved around location-wise. They actually played out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, while retaining the name the Kansas City Monarchs for a few years right prior to the end of their tenure. The location for the Monarchs, I think, was key for the location of the Negro League Baseball Museum that I'll talk a little bit about later. But several notable Negro League players had some time at the Kansas City Monarchs, notably Ernie Banks, that played for the Cubs, Satchel Paige, quite the pitcher, and of course, Jackie Robinson played for the Monarchs as well. So I thought I would wear my particular cap just to commemorate the Negro Leagues. And I'm so very pleased that their stats have now been rolled into Major League Baseball. Okay, Kansas City is a beautiful city, as this bullet starts off. It's known as the City of Fountains, and you can see a couple. Here's one right here, and I have another notable one during daytime right there as well. So lots of fountains throughout the cities. And in terms of music, it's known for both blues and jazz. The Negro League Baseball Museum shares a venue, which is now right here. The Negro League Baseball Museum actually has moved, I think, twice in Kansas City prior to its current location on Vine, but it now shares a venue with the Jazz Museum. And you see a couple of pictures from the Jazz Museum here, and the outside venue, of course, there. But the Negro League Baseball Museum, we went and toured that particular facility. Now, you don't notice any inside pictures for the Negro League Baseball Museum. That's because they're prohibited, at least when we visited in 2017. But an interesting story or two about that facility. First of all, for those of you who are the rock band Rush fans, bassist and vocalist Geddy Lee, who is also a Canadian baseball fan, donated more than 200 autographed baseballs to the Negro League Baseball Museum. A second story I'd like to share with you is when we got there, we happened to arrive at just the right time to kind of piggyback on a tour, a special tour that was being offered to some White Sox players from the game the prior night. So, without asking for a special tour, we tagged along and had the benefit of the docent that had been arranged for the White Sox. So that really was wonderful as well. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Well, in terms of jazz, I talked about the Jazz Museum. Another thing that we did, and we were fortunate that we had our vehicle there, we stopped in at this location right up on the top here. This is Josie's Records. And I had just been exposed to the best that the Jazz Museum had to offer. And so, with the benefit of having our vehicle with us in Kansas City, we bought a number of records of jazz music, which we carted back home to Pennsylvania. I I didn't realize at the time that we planned the trip to Kansas City that the location for the World War One Museum tribute in the United States is actually in Kansas City. And this tower is part of that museum, which is up on top of a hill, which is important because that hill allows the taking of this photograph and that photograph of Union Station. We'll come back to that shortly. But we had a wonderful visit to the World War One Museum in Kansas City. And I don't have a picture of it, but when you see poppies, the flower poppies, it's meant to help with the memory of those who were lost in World War One. There's a wonderful art museum also in Kansas City. And this shuttlecock that you see out front is on the lawn in front of that particular museum. And we had great food while we were in Kansas City, which of course focused on barbecue. Now, Union Station is the train station. This is from out back of the train station. You can see the freight coming on through. But Union Station is a facility that's been there for some time. And here you can see it at nighttime, quite beautiful with an interesting fountain out front. And in daytime, again, taken from the hill where this World War One museum is. And I forgot to mention it, they had tributes to each of the different leaders from the various regions represented. And there is Colonel Pershing of fame from World War One. I believe he was a U.S. leader at the time. Okay, Union Station, back to Union Station, was the site, unfortunately, of the 2024 Kansas City Chief celebration, where there was a shooting, one person died, and several people were injured in kind of a senseless shooting at that celebration for Kansas City's Super Bowl victory that year. And the K, coming back to the ballpark right here, is on the same venue, same property as the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium for football is as well. And they are both just right off I-70. So I think that's about all I have to offer for the 22nd episode. The 23rd will take us, as I mentioned, to St. Louis, where we saw the Cardinals play and again toured the city. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with you there. And thanks for your attention with this particular episode.